Whether it's your health, whether it's your wealth, or whether it's starting and growing an Amazon business, one of the most important elements is to remember where and how you started. I think too often people want to learn the greatest, latest, most up-to-date, most innovative strategies on what it takes to become successful in this business. And yet at the end of the day, the most successful people maintain the basics as a core fundamental in everything that they do. I'll give you an example. Let's say that somebody starts off with retail arbitrage, then evolves into wholesale, and then maybe grows their business from there. Well, one of the things that I often see is that people abandon the first strategy when they move into the next strategy. The challenge is that you're now giving up a revenue stream that was income producing. That's how you got to the next level in the first place. So I think as we're focusing in on what we're doing and how we're doing it, it's an important reminder that the basics are extremely important in anything that we do. And in this business, our Internet Mastery community has sold hundreds of millions of dollars by focusing on an 8-step formula. Now, I've learned a long time ago that my role and my position is simply to make suggestions, give you advice based on my own personal experience and the more than 2 decades of teaching people how to have their own e-commerce business. It really is up to each individual. That's up to you to determine what it is that you want to do in your business. So just think about that for a minute. I'm going to be here to make suggestions to you, and then you're ultimately going to make decisions on what it is you're going to do within your business. Why is this important? Because when people succeed, they should take credit for their success. It's not about me. It's not about the technology. It's not about the coaching. It's not about the prep center. It's about you and the decisions that you made in your business. Now, of course, what that also means is that if you don't achieve the level of success you're hoping to achieve, that you need to accept personal responsibility for that. It isn't my fault if your business doesn't flourish. That's your fault. Just as it isn't my fault if you succeed, it's your fault. And so once we accept that personal responsibility, that this is a business that we can absolutely control, that this is a business that we determine what happens as we're moving forward, the more we realize that we have the power. Ultimately, it comes down to what it is that we're doing and how close we're following the system. You know, at the end of the day, if I was going to bake a cake and give you that cake to eat, of course, if you liked it, you might ask me for the recipe. If I gave you the recipe for my cake and you baked it, it's probably going to taste a little bit different than mine because we all have a little bit of dash of this and a little bit of touch of that as we are baking. But if I was to tell you that you needed 2 cups of sugar and 1 cup of flour, and you added 7 cups of sugar and no flour, your cake would not taste like my cake. So we've got this 8-step basic process that anyone can implement. It's really simple. The only question is how close you are following the process. And I want to review that with you because I think that, again, too often, the more we move away from what got us to the dance, the more we forget about implementing these basics within our business. So the first step in the process of our 8-step system is to source the product. To source the product. Now, what does that actually mean? It means we need to figure out how and where we are going to get our inventory. Now, I hear a lot of people who want to sell on Amazon that what they do is they go and look at the hottest selling products, the top 100 here, the top 500 there, and they say, okay, I'm going to sell this one, that one, and the other one. And then when they try to find those products, they can't because they're not available or certainly not accessible to you. So our concept is different. In our concept, we actually find the product first, and then we determine what the next steps are. So there's 4 different methods of product sourcing. There's retail arbitrage, there's wholesale arbitrage, there's private label, and there's branding. Now, retail arbitrage comes in 2 forms. It comes in online and it comes in person. They're both effective. It just depends on how you want to do your business. There's no reason why you can't do both. Again, multiple streams of Amazon revenue. So if I'm buying online, that's fantastic. If I'm buying in the stores, that's fantastic. The reality is that there's some deals and opportunities that you can buy in store that you can't buy online. And one of the big differences is that there are typically a lot less limitations. So you might go to a retailer online and it says, I could buy 5 of those max, but if I went in the store, I could fill up my whole shopping cart. They say, well, what happens if I'm using the prep center? Well, if you're buying in the store, you're not going to use the prep center unless you want to put everything in a box and send it to the prep center. That's certainly an option. But if you use prep from home, you can just simply do some of that yourself. It's not going to hurt you to know what to do or to learn how to do it the right way. So step number 1 is to source the product. Now, when we're starting out, we want to be in the easiest, simplest path for success. We want to have the least amount of risk and the maximum amount of reward. That's why we start with retail arbitrage. And when you understand that as a new seller on Amazon, a lot's going to be gated based on your seller performance. Well, when you're increasing your seller performance and you start to get ungated, a lot unfolds and changes for you. But in the beginning, you don't want to simply start with, for example, private label, where you have to buy 500 or 1,000 of something, send it into Amazon, and then have it take 12 months to sell. That will kill your seller performance. If you buy 5 of something from Target and 3 of something from Kohl's and 12 of something from Best Buy or Walmart or Costco, then you've got the ability to turn that inventory very quickly to build up that seller performance. So step number 1 is to source the product. Now, step number 1 is to source the product. Step number 2 is to see if it's on Amazon. So we're looking only for items that are already on Amazon. If the item's not on Amazon, we don't sell it, not in this basic formula. Now, again, this is where someone who's watched YouTube videos in the past or someone who's attended another course where they tell you to buy a private label, list your item on Amazon and do it that way, has a different philosophy and mindset than what we are doing here. Again, minimal risk and maximum reward so we can get the best return on our investment. So step number 2 is make sure it's on Amazon. You see, if it's already on Amazon, we don't need the UPC code, we don't need the titles, the descriptions, the bullet points, the pictures, the keywords. We don't need to do any of that. All of that is already done. So how simple is that to simply attach myself to another listing? For example, platforms like eBay don't even allow that. On eBay, every listing is individualized, but on Amazon, everybody is selling on the same listing. Step number 1 is source the product. Step number 2 is see if it's on Amazon. If it's not on Amazon, you go back to step number 1. By the way, if it's not on Amazon, you don't have a pity party, you don't cry about it, you don't get mad about it, you just move on, go back to step number 1 and find another product. Step number 2, make sure it's on Amazon. Step number 3 in this success formula is to determine the profitability. In other words, is the item profitable? Is the item profitable? And you want to use the SPY Rivals calculator or however you're choosing to do it to know what your profitability is in advance before you buy the item. Are you going to make any money on this product? Now, when you're looking at the profitability of the item, you get to decide what your base profitability is. Everybody's business is different. Everybody's products are different. Remember that the amount of money you make is not based on what you sell something for. It's based on what you pay for it. So the lower the price that you get for it, the maximum the opportunity of your actual profit is going to be. Step number 3 is to determine the profitability. I like to look for items that on average get me at least a minimum of 15%. Now, you may pick a minimum of 5%. You may pick a minimum of 27.23%. This is your business. You get to choose. I just give you suggestions based on what I'm doing, and understand that even if we average 15%, sometimes we only make 5. Sometimes we make 35. And by the way, sometimes we lose. You have to understand what's happening here. You are in the e-commerce retail space. All retail business owners, at some point in time, liquidate inventory. At some point in time, no matter how smart they are, no matter how great they are at making decisions, no matter how long they've been in business, they end up selling items for a loss. This is just part of the retail space. And of course, that's a tax deduction, and so it's really not a big deal. But what you're looking for is you're looking for products that are going to be profitable. Understand that one of the calculations you should be making is the speed in which you get your money back, or the return on your investment. And of course, if you're making a 15% return and your items are selling every 60 days, well, guess what? If you only made a 10% return, but your items sold every 30 days, you would be more profitable. That's how the math works. The faster your items sell, the lower the profit percentage you can make to still make more than someone who makes a higher profit per item but takes longer to sell. Step number 4 is to list the item before you buy it. Step number 4 is to list the item before you buy it. Now, why do we do that? Well, because some items are going to be restricted. Now, as a new person just starting out in their Amazon venture, 99 out of 100 items are going to be restricted. That's just the way the new seller performance process works on Amazon. That's only one factor. The other factor is that you, as a brand new person, have no idea what you're doing and no idea what you should be looking at to get the maximum impact of your results. Now, for all of our community members that participated in the Underground series, particularly Underground number 2, I shared with you a concept called auto ungating and provided you a list of thousands of ASINs that you can enter to get auto ungated regardless of your seller performance. They're not going to work for everybody 100% of the time, but the results have been very powerful in getting new sellers ungated for certain items, certain products, and certain brands where it is a little bit easier. But understand that when somebody's new, they're not even sure what direction to go in. And so they end up looking at the products that they're most interested in, the ones that they like the most, the ones that they think will sell the most. And oftentimes they end up with product brands that are never going to get approved for them in the short term anyway. So it is more of that learning curve. But every account is different. It would be awesome on Amazon if everybody was approved for the same thing every time. But just like your credit score, nobody has the same credit score, and nobody's going to get approved equally for any credit card or loan you apply for. So you want to list the item before you sell it to make sure you have the ability to sell it. Step number 5, and you want to do these steps in order, by the way. Step number 5 is to determine the velocity. To determine the velocity. Is the item selling? And if it is, how many are selling and how many should you buy? Now, we are blessed within our Internet Mastery community to have built and created some of the most advanced data mining tools ever for Amazon sellers to give you the detailed specifics of what you need. I am surprised oftentimes how many people simply ignore the numbers and just go with their gut. Now, that doesn't mean you're right or wrong to do that. It's your business. It's your life. It's your opportunity. And you get to choose how you want to move forward. But when you're using technology that has AI built in and has analyzed millions and millions of items, comes up with a proprietary formula that says this is either selling or not selling. If it's not selling, don't buy it. If it's selling, use the SPY Rivals tool to determine how many you should buy that you will sell in the next 30 to 45 days. And just stick with the number. It's not complex. A lot of times we spend minutes and hours, and sometimes days and weeks, over analyzing. I do want you to understand something just in life in general. The less you analyze and the more you do, the more success you're going to have. If you take one person who just is constantly analyzing and looking at something and saying, I wonder if this is good, I wonder if it's not good, should I pull the trigger, should I get it, should I not? By the time they're ready to get it, the item could also be sold out. Whereas if you take somebody else who's just flying, right? Flying with the wind and buying 7 of these and 12 of these, just doing whatever SPY Rivals says without thinking about it, almost with reckless abandon, that person will always sell more. And one of the things that I want you to understand for all of us in this community and for everybody who wants to have their own e-commerce Amazon business is you have to remember what it's like to be new. I think that we forget that, where when we're new, we're just buying everything that SPY Rivals says. We're focused on the numbers. We don't know what they mean. We don't understand the business. We're just doing what is necessary based on the basics, based on this 8-step formula. And then here's what happens. As we get smarter, we think we get smarter. As we think we know more, we start to alter. We start to move away. We start to think more. We start to analyze more. Well, now I know about this, so now I'm going to do it like that. We hear something, we go to an event, somebody says something, that's interesting. That might be something I want to implement. These are all good things, by the way. I'm not being critical of them. I just want you to understand that they move you away from the basics. There's a good reason why people sell more in their first 90 days than they sell in their next 90 days. It's because they're thinking too much. They're analyzing too much, and they think they know too much. Remember, if you just follow what got you here in the first place, there's a reason that we built this community following these 8 steps. Step number 6. Step number 6 is really simple. Step number 6 is to buy your inventory. So step number 1 is source the product. Step number 2 is make sure it's on Amazon. Step number 3 is determine the profitability. Step number 4 is list it. Step number 5 is make sure it's selling. And step number 6 is to buy it. Now, once you buy your inventory, you have 2 options. You can either send it to your house or you can send it to the prep center. That is if you are buying it online. If you're buying it in the store, you should bring it home and then determine whether you want to prep it yourself, put it in a box, and send it to the prep center. Either way, it's very important that you sticker your inventory before sending it to Amazon. Now, you don't have to follow this advice. You can do it, as I mentioned, any way you want. You can buy inventory and send it directly to Amazon without stickering it. That's called commingled inventory. You can Google it. You can check it out. You can learn about it. You might say, wow, that is the way to go. I don't have to do any of the work. Of course. It's always simpler and easier to do it that way. But then when your inventory is commingled and there is an issue and your Amazon account gets permanently banned, blame yourself. Not me, not anyone else. The reason we don't teach you how to do the business a certain way is because we don't want you to risk your business. The goal is to maximize the reward and minimize the risk. So all of your inventory needs to be stickered. That's where you print an FNSKU barcode, and that barcode covers up the UPC barcode that is on the product. Step number seven is to prep your inventory, to prep it. Now, you can send it to the Internet Mastery Prep Center if you want, or you can do it yourself. If you are sending it in, fantastic. If you're using the process of doing it at home yourself, then you can utilize prep from home and get the same savings on the inbound process to get it to Amazon. If you are doing the prep yourself and you are going through Amazon Seller Central to create your shipping plan, you're paying between 300 and 400% more in inbound shipping placement fees and inbound shipping costs than you would if you are using prep from home. It's mind-boggling to me that anyone would prep from home and not use prep from home technology. Now, again, it's not my business, so it's easy for me to say that. But for the nominal fee to use prep from home and to subscribe to that service, by the way, if you're using the prep center, you don't need that, obviously. But if you're buying in the retail store and you're bringing it home, if you're sending things to your house for whatever the reason and then sending them to Amazon, if you're not using the prep from home technology, which saves you hundreds and ultimately thousands of dollars in shipping inbound fees to Amazon, then that is going to impact your bottom line. And then step number 8 is to send it to Amazon for FBA. Step number 8 is send it to Amazon for FBA. Now, does this mean that you can't do FBM? Of course not. You can run your business however you choose to run your business. You can ship the items directly to the customer, or you can send the items to Amazon and let Amazon send them to the customer. If you want to deal with the customer service, if you want to deal with lost items, if you want to deal with people saying that they didn't get the items when the tracking number says they received it, if you want to deal with A to Z claims in your account, if you want to deal with enhanced negative feedback and lower seller performance, and you want to ultimately sell less on Amazon, then you should definitely do FBM. My business, my personal Amazon business, grew from $1.8 million in 1 year to just under $6 million the next year by switching from FBM to FBA. I didn't understand the power of FBA. Now, it's the only way that I would sell something, unless it's just simply not an option. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do FBM and be successful, but you have to ask yourself the question, do you want to be successful or do you want to make a lot of money? Those two things are not necessarily the same. Do you want to be able to have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whom you want, as often as you want, or do you want to be stuck home having to ship items? I hear questions all the time. How do I put my Amazon account on vacation mode? What? Why would you ever want to be on vacation mode in Amazon? Oh, because I'm traveling. I'm going to be out of town. I can't ship anything. Well, if Amazon is doing your fulfillment, there's nothing for you to ship. It's a backwards way of thinking about the process. Now, again, here's the best part. I'm not emotionally connected to your process. You get to do whatever you want. You don't have to follow the steps. You could do the steps your way. You don't have to like my steps. You can come up with your own steps. Like, that's the cool part about running a business. But the closer you can stick to these steps, the more success you're going to have. Step number 1, source the product. Step number 2, see if it's on Amazon. Step number 3, determine the profitability. Step number 4 is list the item before you buy it. Step number 5, make sure it's selling. Step number 6, buy it. Step number 7, prep it. And step number 8, send it to Amazon for fulfillment. Remember, folks, the more coachable you are, the more you follow any process in any aspect of life, the more success you're going to have. If you're investing, the more you follow those investment rules, the more your investments will work out the way you want them to be. If you're into health and fitness, the more you follow the dietary process, the workout process, the sleep process, the hormones and peptides process, the more you can optimize your health, the more you can optimize your wealth, the more success you're going to have. And that's where the coaching and the process is really powerful. Look, the technology that we have in Internet Mastery is exceptional. It's extraordinary. But it isn't just about the technology. Everyone gets excited about the red and the green and what to do and how to do it. But if I gave you all a fancy sports car and you don't know how to drive, you're going to hit a tree. It's just the way life works. So think about the basics. Go back to the basics. Focus on what you need to do. And then set yourself some daily incremental goals that you can process. And I know that if you follow these 8 steps, you will get and achieve and see the things in your e-commerce business that you haven't achieved yet. Follow the 8 steps, and I know that success is around the corner for you at whatever level that means. If you're doing great, you'll do greater. If you'll just start, you'll get off to a better start.